Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Nerd to the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I'm your host and master of ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. With me, as always, in this epic quest of awesomeness is our resident anime goddess, the Cat. Cat, how are you doing this week?
I am okay. I am having such a stressful time at work, but I am here. I am de-stressing with the show. It is all good.
I don't know if you call this de-stressing, given what we're discussing tonight, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Yes.
And Mike, how are you doing this week?
I am incredibly stressed out. The last 96 hours have been incredibly busy for me. This is the crescendo of my week, so it's all downhill from here until the weekend when we record the next edition of Fools Who Ride. I've got homework due. I'm recording with the Angry Video Game Nerd in just a few hours. And I, while doing research for this particular topic, stirred up some really unpleasant fucking memories. So this will be fun.
This is going to be so good, you guys. We're so excited.
So, yeah, I guess that brings us to our discussion topic for this week, and that's spooky urban legends. So what we did for this episode was we each chose an urban legend from the areas in which we live, so something local to us, to talk about and discuss. And I don't know about you guys, but I found something that I thought was pretty interesting and spooky, and so that's going to be fun. So, but of course, there is procedure to follow, so we're going to begin, as always, with Ask Geek. And our first question here comes from Lisa, and she's got a two-part question. First part is for me, and that question is why we didn't do a review of Castlevania Season 3, considering how gung-ho I was about the first two seasons. And the answer is because, well, if you listen to our review of Season 2, I actually did not like Season 2 because I thought Carmilla hijacked the plot. I didn't like that Trevor and Sypha and Alucard basically spent 6 episodes sitting in a library, and yeah, I wasn't all that enthusiastic about Season 3, so I actually didn't watch it until very recently with a friend of mine, and I actually really enjoyed Season 3. I like what they're doing with Carmilla and her clan of lady vampires this time around. That one Lenore is a gaslighter extraordinaire. I loved her arc with Hector. Isaac's story I also thought was really neat. I'm liking where that's going. And Trevor and Sypha actually got to do shit this season. And I love the dynamic between the two of them. I love the relationship that they're in now, and I love the kind of playful banter between the two of them. So I actually love Season 3. Looking forward to Season 4. And that leads to the second part of the question, which is to all of us. For those of us who've seen Castlevania Season 3, what were our thoughts on it? So, Kat and Mike, did you guys see Season 3 of Castlevania?
I never saw the first one.
Ooh, you need to fix that because it is awesome.
I haven't gotten a chance to watch Season 3 yet. It's on my queue. It really is, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm so sorry.
Well, I for one loved it. So take that as a recommendation from me. If you're a Castlevania fan, definitely watch Season 3. I think it's the best one yet. And let's see here now. Here's another question here, and this one comes from Ryan, and it is for all of us, and it's best and worst Halloween candy. So our favorites and least favorites. So Mike, let's start with you. What was your favorite Halloween candy to get trick-or-treating, and what was one that you absolutely hated?
I'd say my favorite is probably I think it's a unique one to Canada, but I know you can get it around the world. It's something called Coffee Crisp. It's chocolate with a little bit of a hint of coffee flavor. It's really, really, really good. It's like crispy wafers and chocolate. It's really, really pleasant. My least favorite, I never liked it when people gave out apples and oranges. It just seemed to me like kind of a cheat. Like, this is supposed to be a fun day. Yeah, you should get something, sugary and stupid and whatnot, but I'm like, really? You're gonna give me a fucking apple?
That gets you arrested down here.
Or when people would randomly give you like toothbrushes or something. I always found that really weird. Like, wow, what are you trying to tell me? Sort of thing. So those would be my picks.
Okay, Kat, what about you? Best and worst Halloween candy?
Let's see. So worst Halloween candy is obviously like those like orange peanuts, whatever those
circus peanuts.
Circus peanuts, those are the worst thing ever. Followed by like Necco wafers and black licorice. Like, these are the worst things ever. Just put them immediately into the trash. Best candy, my favorite is always going to be like chocolate. I always like Snickers and Milky Ways and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, top tier. But I do have a very nostalgic fondness for sugar daddies, because they were like the thing that my dad would always rob out of my stuff, and so I would always like set them aside for him. So I have like this fondness of like the memories of them are very fond, even though they're really not that good.
Yeah, that was the dad tax, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was dad tax. Like mom tax was probably peanut butter cups, but dad tax was like sugar daddies and sugar babies.
I don't think I've ever had a sugar daddy.
It's
They're
basically just a chunk of caramel on a stick.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah.
It's pretty good if you enjoy eating most of the wrapper.
Yeah. Let's see. For me, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this on the show before, but my favorite Halloween candy was always the fruit flavored Tootsie Rolls. They came like orange and lemon and lime and strawberry and vanilla. The vanilla was awful, but hey, there's always got to be one bad flavor in the bunch. And for the longest time, you could not get bags of just the fruity Tootsie Rolls. You only got them like the big giant variety packs with like a dozen other candies. So I remember the first year. I remember I was 19 years old the first time I discovered that they'd started selling the fruit flavored Tootsie Rolls in bags. I just bought like a dozen bags and ate like 6 of them in an hour. I was so goddamn sick. But those are my favorite growing up. The stuff that my least favorite Halloween candy, and this was my dad tax, was the Almond Joys and the what was the other one? The other Peter Paul one. It was the stuff with coconut. Anything coconut. I absolutely cannot stand coconut. So all the stuff that had coconut in it, I would just throw to my dad and just like, here, you eat it because you love coconut, you fucking mutant.
Oh god, I love coconut.
Yeah,
so
no.
Good.
So the Almond Joys, I absolutely hated I hated those. Also didn't like the Good and Plenty because like Kat mentioned, black licorice. Ugh, disgusting.
Ugh.
And then I had one house that always gave out wax lips, and I was like, how has your house not been burned down? Like seriously, like this is Satanism that you're foisting on me. These wax lips. These are of the devil. So yeah, those are my least favorite Halloween candies. Okay, and let's see here now. Let's get another Halloween question here. Okay, here's one from Erica, and her question is, what is your go-to Halloween movie? And for Kat, I'm going to just go ahead and write my guess on this slip of paper here, and let's see if I'm correct. Okay, and go.
So your guess is going to be Hocus Pocus.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes, I have won the yacht.
That's what your guess is. My go-to Halloween movie, the one that I'm the one. So I have a roommate, and we're like, every Halloween we're like, okay, what are we gonna watch? And I'm the one who goes, I want to watch The Conjuring, and she wants to watch Hocus Pocus. So Hocus Pocus I watch every Halloween, but not because it's my go-to. Okay. I love the movie The Conjuring. I don't like that many horror movies, and The Conjuring is like that slow burn that I really like. That's, the kind of one that I enjoy. So that actually is my go-to. I don't always get my way on that one, though. But last year, we talked a lot about Stephen King stuff. So, like, last Halloween, I did Carrie, we did The Stand, we did all of these things. It was so much stuff that I watched around Halloween. But one of the things I watched around last Halloween was The Mummy. And we're like, sure, why not? Why not?
Brendan Fraser or Tom Cruise?
Oh, obviously, the only one worth watching is the Brendan Fraser one.
Okay.
So
Boris Karloff one, you fucking savage!
I don't own it, but we do own a copy of Brendan Fraser because you can get a 3-pack.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so that is my go-to, is actually The Conjuring, because it's one of the few horror movies that I really, really love.
Okay. All right. Mike, what about you? Go-to Halloween movie?
Well, I've got 3, but one is always guaranteed to play because we actually watched this Halloween movie while putting up the Christmas tree. We watched Hocus Pocus and put up the Christmas tree in our house because I almost died a couple years ago, and it's just a way to like, hey, Halloween's not so bad. Plus I got engaged on like October 30th back in 2009. So Hocus Pocus and Halloween's always been kind of a special thing for us. But in terms of actual movies, I always go out of my way to watch. There are two specifically. I watch the Blob remake from 1988. It's a remake done amazingly well. It's one I would probably never touch again. If Hollywood's, hey, you get to remake this, I'd be like, yep, nope, not doing that, because it is perfection. And then I would probably say Night of the Creeps by Fred Decker, which is like a send-up of B movies from the 1950s with like zombies and space aliens, some wonderful special effects. Tom Atkins plays this awesome sheriff who says, "Thrill me." There's a disabled character, and his death is incredibly tragic and sad. And it's a fantastic movie. And Fred Decker only did 3 movies in Hollywood. He did The Monster Squad, Night of the Creeps, and RoboCop 3. And I appreciate all those things for different reasons. So those are my 3 go-to picks.
Okay, interesting. It's interesting that you bring up the Blob, because relating not to the remake that you mentioned, but the original 1950s version. My sister actually lives in the city where they filmed the original 1950s The Blob. And you know the movie theater that is sort of at the climax of the film? She lives literally right around the corner from that theater.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, so I told her that, and she's like, "Oh, well, that explains why they have like Blob Night every year around Halloween. Like the whole city just goes fucking nuts for the Blob." So that's the little fun fact about how I'm connected to the Blob by 6 degrees of separation. For me, go-to Halloween movie. You know what? I have a fondness in my heart and always will for John Carpenter's The Thing. It's one of my favorite horror movies ever. Not my absolute favorite. That honor will always go to Alien. But you know that we'll go more into that later. Foreshadow. But I will always love John Carpenter's The Thing as a go-to Halloween date movie. Also, you know, just because it's campy and I love it. The Nightmare Before Christmas. I know that's the pleb stereotype answer, but you know, I mean, how can you say no to Tim Burton on Halloween?
I fucking hate that movie so much.
All right, you and I will have to meet on the Field of Honor after we have finished recording. So, all right, because I will raise my sword for that film. All right, let's see here now. Do we have another easy asking question here? Let's see. Okay, here's a good one. What is the most creative Halloween costume you've ever seen? And this one is from Mark. So, okay, Kat, let's start with you because you work cons. You see all kinds of crazy costumes. What's the most creative Halloween style costume you've ever seen?
Well, I would actually separate out Halloween costumes from like cosplay at a con, because that's a whole nother level. Like I could go into the most creative cosplays I've ever seen, and that would be like we'd be here all day. So I will try to use my my coworkers because we do a Halloween event every year, except for this year, the year that doesn't exist. I think one of my favorite things that I've ever seen that I thought was really funny that that I've seen done at work was somebody dressed up as Hannibal Lecter and somebody else dressed up as an orderly. And they got a furniture dolly and wheeled Hannibal Lecter around all day on a furniture dolly. Which I thought was hysterical, like just as a way to travel around your workplace.
That is a good one. Okay, all right.
That was pretty good. I think my other I thought was pretty good, at least at work, was one entire department did the cast of Stranger Things. Like they did whole season 1 of Stranger Things. They got somebody for every character. And we do like a costume contest at work for Halloween. And like, obviously they were going to win. Like there was no competition. So those are probably some of the more creative ones is like an overwhelming number of something that's really popular or like fucking Hannibal Lecter being wheeled around on a furniture dolly. Just fantastic.
Okay, Mike, what about you? What's the most creative Halloween costume you've ever seen?
There was one I saw. This one was on the internet a couple of years ago, but somebody had rigged a camera and an LCD screen on their chest and back so you could see right through them. And I'm not sure how they did this gag, but it was just an incredible visual effect. It was an optical illusion using technology, and I just thought it was incredibly neat. And I wish I could remember what it was called, but I saw it on Reddit and I saw it on YouTube, and I'm thinking, man, that is friggin' clever. I also saw somebody a number of years ago do a really good alien chest burster where it was just incredible, like almost Hollywood level of special effect. It just looked really, really gory, detailed, and I think the arms moved on the little chest burster thingy.
Okay. Well, for me, if you want me to applaud your cleverness, you've got to make me laugh. So this award actually goes to a kid that I saw. So I think I mentioned this on the show. I used to deliver pizzas for Domino's, and Halloween night I always worked because you just made bank delivering to Halloween parties. And I took delivery to this one house. And as I'm settling up with the guy at the door, this kid who's like about 10 years old comes to me, and he's just wearing a pair of jeans, a blue hoodie that's plastered in these "Hello, my name is" stickers. He's got all these different names written on it. And he comes to me and he says, what's your name? And I told him my name and said, told him my name. And he writes it down on one of these stickers, pulls it off the pad and slaps it onto his costume. And I'm just like, okay, what was the point of that? And he said, oh, it's my costume. I'm identity theft. And I was like, you win Halloween tonight. I hope you get all of the candy because that is fucking amazing.
That's great.
So yeah, that's the most creative Halloween costume that I've seen. Runner up goes to the kid who was walking around in surgical smocks, in a surgical smock with bits of cotton taped to it and a super soaker, and he was cloudy with a chance of rain.
Jesus. Oh my God, puns.
Yep. Thank you as always for sending your questions in. As always, you can send them to us through the email at drgonzo@nerdofthethirdpower.com. We love getting your questions, love reading them on the air, and so get your questions in, and you just might get your question answered on the show. And so with that, because it is October, as is our tradition, we're going to be talking about the weird, the spooky, the scary. And so for this episode, we thought it'd be fun to discuss spooky urban legends and hauntings. So we each picked an urban legend from our area to read about and discuss. And so let's just jump right into it. So, Mike, you cannot drop on us that you found something that scared the hell out of you without and not expect to go first. So let's start with you. What is this thing that you found that scared the unholy bejesus out of you?
Okay, so for those of you who've been following me over the last career that I've gathered over the last 13, 14 years, I am First Nations. I'm Chippewa of Nawash Ojibwe Indian, which means I'm First Nations. I am Native American. So we have a lot of myths and legends surrounding various creatures, monsters, and other things that you should be very wary of. And some of them you may have heard about, such as things known as skinwalkers, but that's more of a American Southwest sort of thing. But there are rumors and similar legends as you go further north into northern Michigan, Minnesota, and where up I am in Canada, we have several legends that are similar. Although we have one that does kind of stick out, and it's been discussed in several different varieties as a mental disorder. It's also been described as a criminal defense in which people have been hung and prosecuted for. And it has also been just a part of Native culture since it was first recognized, I think, by Jesuit priests in the mid 1700s. And it's known as the Wendigo. And the Wendigo is a creature or spirit that is cursed to feast upon human flesh. And there are several different variations of the story, but what it basically breaks down to is someone, if they're trapped in the wilderness or something terrible has happened, they consume human flesh and they are taken over by this creature or this monster, and they look as this emaciatedly gaunt creature with bizarre eyes, but it can also mimic human voice. And it's known to prey upon lonely travelers, to lure people out of their homes. But it's also a sign in Native American cultures. It could be representing greed, the oncoming onset of colonialism, and other things as well. But there are several cases involving the Wendigo that are specifically notable. There was a case in, I want to say it was Alberta, Canada, where there was a person named, I think his name was Swift Runner, and he murdered his entire family and ate them because he believed they were that he was a Wendigo. So he was hung. In the American psychiatry textbooks, they describe someone who consumes cannibal or has cannibalistic tendencies as having Wendigo syndrome. This Wendigo syndrome also set an interesting case in Canadian law, where just because the local tribes were not aware of the white man's law didn't protect them. So ignorance of the law was no defense, because in parts of my culture, if you believed someone was a Wendigo and you had enough evidence, you could go after them. Obviously, different times, it was a different law system, but people were hung, people were shot for doing this sort of thing. But there are several places in Wisconsin and Minnesota that are named after Wendigos, which is fascinating. I also found out there's a place near Kenora, Northern Ontario, and there's a place known as Cave of the Wendigo, which is on this lake whose name I really can't pronounce. And there are some legends surrounding that. So I was doing some research last night, and there was this unusual video. People think it's a moose. People think it's a Sasquatch. No one knows precisely what it is, even other wildlife experts. And it's the middle of the day, and this hunter has his cell phone out, and he's recording something. And you can just hear this ungodly howl coming from the woods, like something is screaming, and it doesn't sound human, whatever the fuck it is. And it just goes on for 2.5 minutes, whatever it is. And while I was browsing Reddit last night, I found similar accounts of people hearing things in the bush. Or one of the more common beliefs with Wendigos and skinwalkers is you don't talk about them, because to talk about them is to give them power, sort of thing. Although that's more common with like skinwalkers, creatures that take the form of a person or persons that you know, but there's always some trait that gives them away. For example, when they talk to you, their lips don't move, or they might be walking on snow, but they're walking on top of the snow, not making any indentations with it. So I got to thinking about this last night, and I don't know whether I was freaked out, but I recalled several memories growing up. And I talked about this on the show last year, but I'll reiterate it. But I'll talk about the first new memory that I recalled last night. So I lived in a town called Shallow Lake, which is southwestern Ontario. It's I wouldn't call it a civilized area, but there was a road, there was a highway like a couple of 100 meters away. But the back of my house led right into the bush. There was like a lake down there. It was woods. And my street was fairly quiet. There was only maybe 10 houses on the street. We're all fairly spaced out. Look at it this way. I couldn't hear someone's TV unless it was blasted. So I'm probably about 14 or 15 years old, and I'm up watching TV, or I'm up reading or something, and I'm just getting ready to go to bed. And I turn off my lights, I turn off my radio, I'm just getting ready to go to sleep. I hear voices outside. There is nobody around, because my room was on the second floor of my house, and I could hear things all around. Like you could hear the neighbor's car making certain noises. Basically, you knew what the soundscape was at night. And I could hear this. I'm thinking, okay, that's really fucking strange. And this kept going on for most of that summer. And the more I think back upon this, I have this fear, and I am not scared of much, where I would pull the drapes I'd close the shutters. I'd lock every door. I would make sure I could not see outside into the darkness, lest something would press its hands or its face up against the glass and be leering in some night at me. And I recall there was one night, I was probably about 16 or 17 years old. I'm watching TV in the basement, and there was something outside. I knew I was not alone because on my back, I was in the basement, but we had this deck that was like half raised. So there was like a little window, but it was level with this like decking. And I knew something was out there, and I had to play it so cool. Like, don't let them know that you see it. Don't let them know that it's here. Walk away, turn everything off, pretend you never saw it. And that is a fear I carried with me throughout my entire life living in that house is don't be outside after dark. Do not go in that back fucking yard after dark. And always be cognizant of your surroundings. But it's weird because I've mentioned on several forums and Reddit and other places that my house was haunted to high hell. But I always kept hearing whispers and I could never make out exactly what it was. But there were voices. I knew I heard voices. And my mom and dad, or my grandparents who raised me, they never had TVs, they never had radios. So it wasn't any of my devices and it was nobody outside. So what the fuck was it? And then the other story that I'd like to bring up, this was a girlfriend. We were driving in this place near another town that I grew up in called Owen Sound. And we're driving this place called Irish Block, which is just about 15, 20 minutes outside of Owen Sound. And it's all these back concessions. It's heavily wooded, spooky as hell, but we just like driving. So one night, me and my girlfriend, Ashley, we're driving back there. It's just me and her. We turn off the radio and we're just kind of enjoying the nice summer breeze. But then suddenly things just take a turn for the worse. We start hearing this weird sound come from around the car, and we're thinking, okay, is that the car making that sound? And then we slow down for a minute. No, like that is not the fucking car. And we notice it start to get louder, but we are in the back of this woods. So this is well before GPS was a thing, and we don't know how to get out. So we're driving, twisting and turning, trying to figure out how to get back there. This noise is getting louder. Whatever it is chasing us. And you can just hear this unholy roar, like as if the wind had a personality, as if the wind had intent. On a perfectly calm night, is just howling around the car, and we feel something behind us. So eventually, after about 10 or 15 minutes, we finally get out of Irish Block. We clear the tree line. We can see the highway. We can see there's a lone street light, which kind of marks the edge of the territory between between Irish Block and the highway. Once we cross past that lone streetlight, it's a quiet night. Cold moonlight. The air is still. You can hear crickets. You can see fireflies. Something chased us out of there. And I've told this story in a few different places, and people were saying whatever that was either a Wendigo or some kind of a spirit or something. Something didn't want you back there. And I've always thought, because of my Native Canadian First Nations background, do I have an attunement to the spiritual side? Maybe. Do I believe I have some kind of a connection? I think so. Whether you believe it or not, that is up to you. But something happened that night, and something definitely happened when I was a kid. So that is the story that I will leave you with. So questions, comments, concerns?
Well, I'm going to have to excuse myself to go wipe up the puddle of terrified pee under my in my chair after that story. Okay, yeah, no, ooh, that is very chilling.
I'll say that I was really excited that you were going to talk about Wendigos, because I went down a rabbit hole like a year or two ago, reading stories about them, and as soon as you start to like find one, you'll find a dozen, 2 dozen, however many. But there's like accompanying videos and shit, and you could really wind yourself up over Wendigo stories. And I think there's a certain, to me, there's a certain element of mystery to stories about skinwalkers and Wendigos. And this is coming from a white girl who has all of this European heritage, that I feel like the things that come from like the European-centric stories, European-centric monsters like vampires and werewolves, these things are so thoroughly explored by mainstream media that they don't really scare us anymore. Not to the extent that filmmakers would probably like. And I think that's why I find stories about Wendigos so incredibly terrifying, is because I, like, from a cultural standpoint, do not have enough exposure to, you know, write them off as folklore. There's so many stories and so many recent stories. Like, nobody's walking around saying they saw a vampire. You would immediately discredit that person. But there's so many people who have stories about seeing Wendigos and skinwalkers and that sort of thing. And it's like to the point where you really can't ignore it, and you can't just write it off and call them crazy. And our white people, the white people understanding of these things is so limited that it's even harder to write the stories off, because how the fuck would we know if they're true or not? What the hell do we actually know about anything? So I love stories about Wendigos. I think they are fascinating. I think they are terrifying. They are nightmare fuel for me. I've literally had nightmares after like watching videos. I've wound myself up about this so much over time.
Yeah, I was actually writing a post on Facebook last night, and I had a few people message me. They're like, okay, Mike, I love you and all, but that really unnerved me. So can you dial it back a notch? I'm thinking, I'm sorry. But yeah, there's a lot of Native American or first kind of nation stuff that a lot of people just don't get. Hell, there's even legends about flying vampiric heads that I didn't even touch on. That is an Iroquois legend, but that's a story for next year. So yeah, party on.
All right, so okay, so that's Mike's story. Kat, what tale of terror do you bring to the table?
Okay, I'm not going to talk about anything that has personally happened to me. I want to talk about a place there. It is like supposed to be one of the most like top 10 most haunted roads in America. It is a place that is probably about 30 minutes from where I live, about 15 minutes from where my parents live. It is called Zombie Road. It is not actually called Zombie Road. That is the colloquial name for it. There are every conceivable folktale or urban legend that you could assign to anything has been assigned to this place. Once upon a time, back in the olden days, there used to be supposedly there used to be this like they call it like an Indian trail along this river, and there's bluffs along this river. So there was like a natural trail from a very, very long time ago. And over the course of time, a lot of people have built up stuff around this particular area. More walking trails. There was tales of like Confederate soldiers crossing the river there because there was like the only good crossing spot, because this river is at the base of some pretty high cliffs. And they built a railroad there, and there was a, I think like a lime quarry or something like that. So there's a lot of activity around this particular area. And every conceivable urban legend, like they have it for this road, Zombie Road. Back in the 70s, my mother and her friends used to do like bravery tests, where you'd like go down to the creepiest parts of Zombie Road. There's no lights. There's the trees hang over the road, so it's so dark you can't see the moon. And then the bravery test was for everybody to jump out of the car and switch seats. And then you keep going. And nowadays, it is a very beautiful series of hiking trails. So you can't drive down it anymore or anything like that. But there used to be like popular makeout spots and stuff like that. But it is supposedly extremely haunted. And there are some really creepy photographs out there of people who have taken pictures of like shadow beings, like humanoid shaped people made out of shadows. There are photographs of all kinds of orbs out there. There's a particularly old story of a woman named Mrs. McCullough, she was the wife of a judge back in like the 1870s, and she was the first person to ever be hit by one of the trains, and she was very obviously died. And if you go there, and you can still see her sometimes, people have been known to see her. There's a lot of old houses that were washed out in floods a long time ago. Like rich people built houses there, and then some really bad floods washed them out. And there's gray lady stories at these houses where you could just be walking along and you'll hear someone calling to you, and you'll see somebody, like a woman, waving to you out of the window, and then you'll go over there and there won't be anybody there. And there's more stories of people getting hit by the trains, and they say you can see soldiers drowning in the river because they tried to cross the river when it was too high and they drowned. Supposedly the whole thing is supposed to be on an Indian burial site, which I do not buy at all, because I think that's just something we try to ascribe to everything. But I mean, it might be true, but there's no evidence of it at all. But one of the things that happened, supposedly, back in like the 60s. So there is a lot of talk of all the weird things that happen here. All these ghosts and gray ladies and orbs and all of this stuff. There was a satanic panic back in like the 60s or 70s, where people would go up on the cliffs and like do all kinds of satanic worship. And supposedly, one kid fell down, like one young man fell off of the cliff, and his head like got caught on a tree, because they're like tree lined, and it scalped him. So his scalp got stuck on the tree, and the rest of his body shot down to the bottom of the cliff.
Jesus.
I know, it's so horrifying. So I'm utterly fascinated with this place just due to the variety of stories. There's no one solid urban legend about this place, and nobody can rightly point out where exactly on the road, on the trail, did this or that happen, other than the stuff that happened on either like one of the bridges or the train tracks. So it is just like an insane number of different stories. And I just think that's really, to me, it's a very fascinating thing to have, because it really shows how many people got involved. It's like the ultimate urban legend is all of them put together in just this one place. There's like the same hook hand on the car stories, everything that you can think of. Everybody will ascribe to this particular road. And it's just so wild to me now that this place is just a lovely hiking trail, a really murderous hiking trail that I did. And it was miserable and I hated it. I hate hiking, you guys, but it's really pretty. And what kills me even more about it is that everybody knows these legends so well that if you start on the road, the very first trail map, somebody has written, "I died here." And then a little farther down, like less than a quarter of a mile down, there's a skull on a stick sticking out of the ground. And I'm sure it's fake. I'm sure it's probably fake, but I wasn't gonna go up and fuck with that shit. Just no. People really enjoy this reputation that it has, and it hasn't been like video documented recently since like I think 2016 was the last time any of the like the paranormal crews went out to inspect it or do anything with it. But I just find it so interesting, because this was one of the few things where my mother told me these stories. And because I came from a military family, we moved around a lot. I didn't really stay in one place for very long, but I grew up hearing these stories. And for me to get to like go and visit this place as an adult, to me, is really, really fun.
All right.
And also, I've been doing a Monster of the Week campaign for my friends. It's a tabletop RPG, and I've set the entire thing on this road just to fuck with my friends. It's really, really cool.
All right. Okay, well, my story is a little simpler than that. So because I live in Maryland, you might think that my go-to pick would be the Mothman story, to which I say, fuck you, watch better movies. Or the Blair Witch, to which I say, that's fake, and also, fuck you, watch better movies. But no, my urban legend I pick is actually the legend of Moll Dyer, who was a woman who lived in Leonardtown, Maryland, which is a small town just southeast of Washington, D.C., in the 1600s. And this is actually before Leonardtown got its official name. She was a woman. Accounts differ whether or not she was an old hag or if she was a younger woman. But the one thing that all the stories agree upon is that she lived in a small hut on the outside of town. And that she would, come into town to beg for alms, and also to gather, ingredients for, I guess, potions and concoctions that she was making. But one year, in 1697, there was a particularly cold winter that led to a very poor harvest, as it killed most of the crops. And so the town basically, did what you did back in those days, formed an unruly mob, torches and pitchforks, and went to her hut and burned it the fuck down. Well, Moll Dyer managed to escape from the mob and from the flames, and she was found dead in the woods a few days later, frozen in place to a large stone that is called Moll Dyer's Rock, and it's actually on display near the courthouse. And what was unusual was the way that she was frozen. She was frozen in a very unusual position. She was kneeling on the rock, and one hand was pointed to the heavens, and the other hand was frozen hard and fast to the stone itself. And it was believed that she was in that pose, and that she had died in the middle of casting an incantation to curse the town. And what's interesting about the story is that there's been unusual electrical and thunderstorm activity reported in and around the Leonardtown area. Some of the stories that have endured to this day, there have been hikers who have gone into the woods surrounding Leonardtown and have been experienced sudden thunderstorms, sudden lightning strikes. But then when they run out of the woods, the sun is shining clear as day, like nothing was ever happening. There have also been hunters who have been in the woods, and they've seen a ghostly figure of that matches the description of Moll Dyer meandering around in the woods. And to this day, any crops that have been tried to grow, that people have tried to grow in the area, they tend not to grow very well, which is very strange, because according to the town's records, that used to be pretty much a breadbasket for the surrounding area. So this is sort of the story that I found here for my urban legend, and it's just really fascinating to learn about this piece of my home state's history, because you think Maryland, you think, oh, crabs, Navy, Baltimore Ravens, and that's all we got. But to actually look into this story and to learn that there actually are some spooky urban legends from my home state, it was a really fascinating thing to me. And what's interesting about this is that it's very hard to find documented evidence of Moll Dyer's life or death in St. Mary's County. But there is a Mary Dyer. We have records of a Mary Dyer living in the area in the late 1600s, and Moll back in those days was actually a nickname for women named Mary. So maybe this was the witch who suffered an attempted burning and wound up being frozen to the stone. There have also been stories where people walking through the town square late at night have seen a ghostly figure hanging around Maul Dyer's rock, which, as I said, is currently on display outside of the courthouse. So it sounds to me like there might actually be some spooky shit going down. And one of the stories one of the articles I read about this legend was actually written by someone who, while they were writing this article, they were also doing, just for shits and grins, found, they were doing a genealogy thing, getting their family history, and they found that they were related to a dyer who lived in the late 17th century. So and they lived in the Southern Maryland area. So she thought that maybe she might actually be related to Maul Dyer, and that might be why that she was so drawn to this story. So maybe there's a descendant of the witch wandering around out there. So yeah, that's my story. So questions, comments, anything?
There's something, at least in my personal experience, with the supernatural and the paranormal. I really do think there is something out there when it comes to witches, shamans, anybody who practices some kind of spirituality to things that we can't see. And I'm not talking about normal religion, obviously, because these things persist in multiple cultures, multiple religions, multiple places around the world. So the story itself is not unique. But what is persistent is when these people pass away, they leave something of themselves behind. Like you said, maybe the area's somewhat cursed, things don't grow, unusual weather. Sometimes people see things in the woods. I do think there is something to it. Is it the power of belief maybe stirring it up? But even non-believers will see things that they cannot explain. And I don't know. I mean, I myself have never had much of an encounter with witchcraft in that regard, but I have seen some things that I cannot explain. So you know what? I'd be willing to certainly take a team out and investigate in the woods, and hopefully I don't get fucking Blair Witched or
Fuck
something.
you.
Like
Watch
that.
better movies.
Hey, I love that movie. I don't want to get horror movied, but yeah, I mean, there is probably something to it. I mean, the fact that this person can trace their genealogy that far back, maybe they are related somehow, some way. Like I said, it'd be fascinating if you could get a more extensive documentary team or more historical research behind it. But the fact that multiple people keep saying they see things, experiencing things, maybe it is local legend and folklore, but maybe it's something else.
Okay. So we're kind of running low here. So any last thoughts or comments on the urban legends that we've discussed today? So Kat, let's start with you.
I personally love urban legends. I think that they're fascinating in how much we dismiss them nowadays. It seems like such a thing from like the 70s and like the 60s and 70s, but I love how they sort of stick with us. There's all kinds of different things. We still have people who are fans of cryptids, so yes, Mothman is still a big thing. The Hookman kinds of stories. I feel like our generation has a tendency to look at these urban legends and stories and folklore as something of the past. That this is something happened a long time ago and we're just hearing stories of stories. But the more you look, the more there are. And it's fascinating to me just to see how many stories make their way around, how many people have the same kinds of stories. Not to like turn people off from our show, but if you haven't listened to Aaron Mahnke's Lore podcast, I highly suggest it if you like these sorts of things. Because it is just chock-a-block full of amazing, amazing stories just like this.
Okay, Mike?
I would say for myself, there's a lot of interesting native lore that I didn't get a chance to get into. As I mentioned, there's this flying head which grows wings from the side of its cheeks and sucks blood and kills people, which is very similar to I think it's a South Pacific legend. The Wendigo takes the form of an owl most often. Most often people associate it with this emaciated deer-looking zombie creature, but that was actually from a movie, which was then taken from a director who read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and he just thought it looked cool. So that's where the modern interpretation comes from. Plus, I think the most recent thing of the Wendigo was seen in I want to say Hannibal or Supernatural, I think were the two most recent examples of this. But
Hannibal,
if you,
for sure.
yeah, like if you want to read up on some really bizarre stuff, go read the Reddit community on skinwalkers. There's some fascinating stuff in there. And whether you believe in them or not, that is obviously up to interpretation, but I do believe in every legend and story there's a lesson to be learned, and there's a little bit of truth to it as well.
All right. Well, that is about all the time that we have for Nerd to the Third Power this week. Thank you as always for tuning in. We will see you guys next time. As always, I'm Dr. Gonzo, and I am going to go change my pants now.
I'm the cat. I'm fine. I don't need to change my pants.
And I'm Mike the Birdman saying, be careful out there, folks.
All right, we'll see you guys next time. Taka, play us out.